Good morning. Welcome to College Coffee Talk. Andy Lockwood from Lockwood College Consulting. Enjoying a nice brew, nice hot brew this morning with you. So we do these quick morning videos as an experiment because we needed a way to answer the scores of questions that we've gotten over the last couple of years. And some of these questions may be ones that you have. Some of these questions may be ones that you don't have, but you should have. And if you have any questions that we haven't gotten to yet, just pop them in comments right here on this post, and I will specifically answer them personally for you. So please like, comment, and share. Let's get going. Today's College Coffee Talk question is, how do you pick a college list? So I'm getting a lot of questions like this right now from class of 2018 families as well as younger, 2019 and so forth. And I want to tell you a little bit about how I think it should be done, and I just want to warn you before I get into it that the way that we do it is a lot different than how guidance counselors and parents and other families do it. And I, of course, mean when I say different, I mean better, but that's because I have no self-confidence issues, maybe a little too much self-confidence, but I recognize everyone doesn't agree with me. So here's the way that I look at the whole thing. I think that it's very easy to go to college and learn nothing that is going to help you succeed after college. You can major in all sorts of stuff like puppetry at the University of Connecticut or in a bunch of other schools, or less commonly taught languages. That's a major at my alma mater, Wesleyan. And I always kind of wonder, like, well, why are they less commonly taught? Maybe because no one cares about them. I don't know. So, or I'm trying to picture, an employer saying, hey, get me the kid, who took less commonly taught languages. Anyway, so my feeling is you need to go into college with not just one game plan, but a flexible game plan or plan A, B, C, and D, or however you want to think about it, that gives you some options, because 80% of kids change majors. But I still think that you should try as much as you can to focus in on 3 or 4 majors that not only appeal to you, but also could lead to a satisfying and lucrative, hopefully, career. So how do you do that? Because you may be thinking to yourself, well, my kid's only 16 years old. They're not spending every waking moment of their day thinking about what they're going to be doing after college. They're just trying to get through their day today with homework and with classes and with social stuff, video games, Snapchatting, Instagramming. Okay, you get the point. So my feeling, I'll tell you our process, and you can kind of take away anything you want from this, but my feeling is that the first thing you need to do is to get an objective, scientific or quasi-scientific assessment of your child's strengths. And there's a bunch of different types of assessments. We, in our practice, happen to use one in particular called the Birkman, but I'm not really a career counseling expert. Our career counselor, Julie, who is an expert and also a former admissions officer and a former high school guidance counselor, she has explained to me the differences between that and Myers-Briggs and the thing on Naviance, which I think is based on Myers-Briggs. There's something else called Colby. There's a lot of them out there. It doesn't really matter what you use. But the next step is to understand what your particular strength finder of choice is saying about your kid. So, in our example, in our case, in our practice, I should say, we look at the kid's wiring, meaning, are they more extroverted or introverted? Are they more, able to work on their own for long periods? Do they prefer to collaborate with people? Are they more of a persuasive, communicating, teaching type, or are they more sort of detail-oriented, and should they be, not necessarily out in public, but should they be, administrating tasks? There's all sorts of different modalities, and I think that's really important to do. So the next step, like I said, is interpreting that, and that's where I think a lot of these strength finding things fall down, because a lot of times kids take something like this through Naviance in high school, and the information that comes back says something like, okay, you should be either a farmer or an astronaut or a park attendant or all these like nutty things. And the problem is that it's kind of a turnoff. You think, okay, this was kind of useless, but you need to dig a little bit deeper and understand, well, why is this suggesting farmer? It might be because you're okay being disciplined and working for long periods at a time on your own, day in, day out, things like that. So the way that we do this is we actually have a real life person, Julie, who I mentioned before, who will actually sit with families on the phone for about an hour and go through the consultation and explain how the particular student's strengths and things to avoid, frankly, manifest themselves in this type of assessment, which I believe 3.8 million people have taken. So it's pretty scientific because out of those 3.8 million people, certain patterns emerge. So that's why I'm a fan of it. So anyway, so the next step is after you, whatever assessment you use, the next step after that would be to then match up that wiring with with careers and majors that would actually jive or mesh with that wiring. And again, 80% of kids change majors, but go in with overlapping majors, 3 or 4 majors. So I'll give you a quick example. I was actually talking about this last night in the office with a client. I was talking about another kid who I'd worked with this client, from the high school that this current client attends. And I pointed out that, and he knew him, that he was always thinking about going to medical school, but he wanted to do a particular type of medicine, specifically ER, trauma type of medicine. And we went through this exercise, and Julie, our career counselor, pointed out to his parents, who immediately agreed, and so did the kid, his name is Greg, that, you know what, you prefer, when you have big decisions to make, to deliberate over them. You're not a snap judgment, type of guy. Therefore, being in the emergency room is probably not the right place for you because, let's face it, delay is death in the ER. And it was one of these things that was right under the noses of his parents and Greg for the last 16 years, but they're too close to it. They didn't realize it. So did this affect his college choices? No. Because he's still thinking about going to medicine, and he may go into radiology or some pediatrics or something. But my point is that certain things get revealed, and even though Julie had never met Greg, and she works out of her office in another city, and she does these things on the phone, she really could tell exactly what he was like, at least as far as his parents were concerned. It was kind of eerie. And I've had that same type of response, those types of comments for the last 3.5 years. I believe we put close to 180 kids through. I think we usually do about 48 to 50 kids each year. And that's just part of our process, because then what we do is from there pick colleges that are reputable in the majors and careers that kids gravitate toward. So, I've had kids be very interested in architecture, for example, and then the next thing we point out to them is, okay, that's great, but you may want to consider some other fields because that is not really predicted to grow according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Why don't you consider some other fields that also jibe again with your wiring, that have more of an optimistic outlook, such as civil engineering or urban planning or something like that. So in that case, it would affect the schools on the college list. So that's the whole point. Think about what's next, backward plan, and then once you have a set of schools that match up with hopefully the 3 or 4 majors that you have that you're going to be considering, then the next step is, okay, now let's look at schools for just traditional college planning purposes, I guess, which would mean big, small, medium, East Coast, West Coast, warm, cold, all that other type of stuff, as well as let's, get in there and make appointments and speak to the department head. So let's say you're thinking about majoring in education. My son is. Let's talk to the people who run the education department, or let's, go to the career centers and ask certain questions like, okay, so I'm thinking about majoring in X. Who recruits on campus in terms of job offers? Like, who was here last year? Who was here 2 years ago? Is everyone coming back? Are you making any changes? How do you support people with internships? All that type of stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that, to me, is the only right way to come up with a college list. It's not about, okay, well, my guidance counselor recommended these 25 schools, which, by the way, the same set of schools that they recommended, to the last 10 appointments that they had, or it shouldn't be about, well, Villanova won the NCAAs this year, so I'm going to apply there because I really want to go there, like basketball, or I love college football. I want rah-rah, that type of stuff. Okay, fine. That's a good starting point, but please go beyond that. Okay, so this was a little bit longer, but I had a lot to get off my chest. So thanks a lot for watching this edition of College Coffee Talk. This is Andy Lockwood, and if you want more information about any of the stuff that we're talking about, we have all sorts of free webinars, and you can download a copy of my financial aid book for free on our website, collegeplanningguru.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next week. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.